What's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's your boy Aladdin again with mysterious things of the world that we can't, comprehend. World order type shit. So if y'all new, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button if y'all want to be unplugged from the matrix. That is. All right, today we got the most mysterious technologies y'all never even thought of the ancient world. Here we go.
Katrina. Number 10. The Dendera Light. The Temple of Hathor in Dendera is an amazing example of Egyptian ingenuity. The temple built in dedication to the love goddess is by far the most impressive religious complex of ancient Egypt. Even 2,400 years after its construction, it still stands as one of the most solid ancient temples on the planet. The first buildings were likely made here during the Old Kingdom 5,000 years ago.
It's over 430,000 square feet of strong walls and subterranean structures. There was once a sacred lake in the complex, believed to have been built by human hands.
And some even say the temple boasted electricity. The reason is because the cult center of Dendera is home to the Dendera Light. The ancient piece of artwork shows what appears to be a light bulb with a socket, a cable, and maybe even a generator. If this isn't the image of a light bulb, it's quite the coincidence. There is a priest holding up the light and several figures raising their hands below it as if in celebration. There is also a baboon seen standing in front of the light bulb holding out two knives. What is going on? Some say the Dendera light is certifiable evidence that the ancient Egyptians had electric light bulbs thousands of years ago. A Norwegian electrical engineer agrees, and he and his team published a book about it. It's called Light of the Pharaohs if you want to look it up, but most Egyptologists say it is just a coincidence. We are looking at ancient images with our modern eyes, and we take everything out of context. The images aren't alone, they are surrounded by other drawings and inscriptions that tell a story. Based on the inscriptions near the supposed light bulb, the god Horus is being shown rising from the lotus flower in the form of a snake, which looks like the filament of a light bulb. His body is being carried on a barge that looks like a light bulb. What appears to be a socket and cable is just the lotus flower and its stem. The lotus flower is very important in Egyptian mythology as part of their creation myths, and it is often represented in our eyes as a kind of lamp or a light. While many, including some engineers, believe that this was a type of lost ancient Egyptian technology, so far archaeologists have not found any ancient light bulbs or electrical artifacts yet. What do you think? Coincidence? Or did the Egyptians actually have light bulbs? Let me know. The jade disc. In 5000 BC, Neolithic humans in China started to place large stone discs on the bodies of dead aristocrats. Researchers have no idea why. The most baffling part is that the huge stone discs were carved out of solid jade. Jade is an extremely hard and wildly valuable mineral. 7,000 years ago, people figured out how to cut massive jade discs and place them on the chests of dead important people in their graves.
The jade discs continued to be part of the funerary process in China for thousands of years. In almost all of the most important tombs from the Hongshan culture, the nobles had jade discs placed on them.
The same can be said about the Liangzhu culture between 3000 and 2000 BC. Jade typically needs to be shaped using modern machinery. The rock is very tough, too tough to be intricately carved using stone tools. Yet that was all Neolithic humans had in 5000 BC. The thing that confuses scientists is that many of the jade discs are smooth as silk, carved to utter perfection. How did they do it? Researchers have suggested it was done using a process of brazing and polishing. However, that would have taken an insane amount of time. But it's true they had a lot of that without TikTok. How the discs were created is still a mystery.
And now for number 8. But first, it's shout-out time. I want to give a big thank
Puma Punku. High up in the Andes Mountains of Peru is the ancient site of Puma Punku.
I just watched a video about this. The Puma Punku are always fascinated by modern fucking archaeologists.
Punku. It was once a powerful religious temple complex. It was a vital part of Inca society, where priests gathered and ceremonies were conducted in honor of the gods. The city is located within the larger Tiwanaku site. For the Inca, this was believed to be the center of creation. They believed that when their gods came down from the sky and created the world, they arrived at Pumapunku. The truly spectacular thing about Pumapunku is the sophistication in which the buildings were made. The Inca used boulders that modern machines would have a difficult time moving around.
Some of these stones used to build the religious temples here are 26 feet long and over 100 tons.
Scientists from Binghamton University did radiocarbon dating on organic materials from the oldest layer around the city. This helped them confirm that the initial construction started around 1510. That was only 500 years ago, long after Europe had already pulled themselves out of the Dark Ages. Mainstream archaeologists are convinced the Inca made Pumapunku's megalithic buildings using primitive stone tools. And yet, when looking at the building blocks, it looks like they were made with a machine. The workmanship is so fine, the angles so perfect.
Meet Grammarly Go, your go-to solution for getting quality work done quickly.
It looks like every block was made using lasers. The stonework is beyond intricate, far more impressive than anything the Egyptians did.
They actually talk about this in Ancient Aliens. I don't know if y'all ever watched that on the History Channel, but supposedly all of this carving on this stone took place a long time ago, and they don't know how they did it.
Scientists have even found drill holes that suggest power tools were used in the creation of the stones. Not to mention that the temple complex is 12,800 feet above sea level. Unless they were lifting the stones onto the top of the mountain using armies of eagles, it doesn't even make sense that they got the stone there in the first place.
How do you think this place was made? Let me know in the comments below.
Number 7. Treasures of the Antikythera ship. Archaeologists have found the missing piece of a puzzle from over a century ago. During a recent underwater excavation of the Antikythera wreck, researchers found a life-sized marble head. The head is of a bearded man, a man the experts think might be Hercules. The head might match with the body found at the Antikythera wreckage shortly after its original discovery in 1900 in Greece. The body of the statue is kept at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. After the crustaceans and barnacles are removed from the face, the pair will hopefully be reunited. There were a few other cool discoveries made near the shipwreck. Archaeologists found human teeth, iron nails, a piece of an anchor, and another small marble statue of a human figure. But the best discovery was made a century ago. That was when divers found the Antikythera mechanism, the world's first computer. Scientists have been studying it for over 100 years and think it was used as an astronomical calculator. The tiny device was fitted with gears and wheels and scientific dials. It was the closest thing the ancient world ever had to a computer, used to predict and display the orbits of cosmic objects. Number 6.
Wild.
Skin of a geisha. In ancient Japan, people figured out how to use rice water as a beauty treatment. Centuries later, the ancient recipe for perfect skin is making a comeback. People all over the world are catching on to the brilliance and simplicity of rice water to gain soft, natural skin. In ancient Japan, it all started with the geishas. These professional entertainers would soak their faces in rice water because they knew it would brighten their skin, settle their pores, and improve skin health. It likely started in the Heian period, from 794 to 1185. Women also soaked their hair in rice water to keep it shiny and black. Those who did this religiously were known as the Yakumi women, famous for their beauty and femininity. But what's the trick to rice water? What makes it so special? The answer is absolutely nothing. 1,000 years ago, women in Japan realized that if they used the leftover water from washing rice to wash themselves, they could get perfect skin and perfect hair. They figured the same thing out in ancient China. The Yao women from the Huangluo village used rice water to maintain lustrous hair well into their 80s. The Yao women are still around today, still using the traditional rice water formula as their hair grows over 6 feet in length on average. Ancient knowledge is making a comeback. Number 5.
I want to see if that actually works. Babe, you ever heard about water with rice
Water with rice?
that actually helps the nutrients of your hair? That's what Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Asian women do. I didn't know that. Maybe, maybe you should try that. You know? That's my first time like hearing about it. But they say that supposedly it can help your skin too if you wash your skin with it.
Maya plaster. The Maya civilization were master builders. Many of their most impressive structures are still standing today after over 1,000 years. They didn't have concrete like the Romans had developed, but clearly they had mastered some form of building material. A team of researchers recently traveled to Honduras to learn the secrets of Maya longevity. They analyzed ancient scraps of Maya plaster from the Copan archaeological site and found unexpected plant extracts. Humans started to use lime plaster about 14,000 years ago, but the Maya took plaster to the next level. Their plaster was also significantly stronger than the stuff the Aztec came up with. First, researchers talked with descendants of ancient Maya masons living in Honduras. Then they looked at the analysis of the plaster itself. The results were shocking. Researchers found that the Maya mixed tree sap from the chucum and fiote trees to make a far more effective material. The tree sap toughened the plaster on a microscopic level. The mixture created by the Maya was similar to the calcite biominerals found in the shells of mollusks. Number 4. Nabatean water system. The Nabateans accomplished a lot before they were destroyed by the Romans. The ancient desert dwellers who lived in what is now Jordan started out as a nomadic Arab tribe 2,500 years ago. By the 4th century BC, they had organized themselves into a powerful political entity. They established their capital in the city of Petra. The Nabateans got into the trading business, with their merchants sending spice across the known world. They became fabulously wealthy. Then they were annexed into the Roman Empire in 106 AD. After that, the Nabateans more or less faded into obscurity. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote of the Nabateans' uncanny ability to find water anywhere in the desert. The ancients don't know how they did it, but modern archaeologists think they've figured it out. The Nabateans developed a highly sophisticated system for collecting rainwater and funneling it into underground cisterns. They developed what may have been the first waterproof cement. They learned how to build ceramic pipelines and use inverted siphons. All of this ingenuity so that they could collect all the water during the rainy season, store it safely, and use it freely during times of drought. Historian Diodorus wrote that the Nabateans had ample water in places where there wasn't any. They also refused to tell outsiders how they did it. This made them mystical in the eyes of the Romans. When the Nabateans were subjugated, they took their knowledge of waterworks with them. Just a few years after their kingdom was taken away, the newcomers in the desert found themselves without water and abandoned the whole place. Number 3. The Fortress of Ollantaytambo. Ollantaytambo was a magnificent fortress in the sacred valley of the Incas. It's over 60 miles from Cusco and holds some of the most amazingly preserved ruins anywhere in Peru. This place is pristine and arguably even more impressive than Machu Picchu. Emperor Pachacuti constructed a ceremonial center here around 600 years ago. He made Ollantaytambo his home and built a great estate. When the Spanish arrived in Peru, Ollantaytambo was used by the leader of the rebel forces, Manco Inca Yupanqui, as a defensive fortress. It was one of the few places that the Inca army managed to beat back the Spanish invaders. The Spanish did return later with more soldiers, and the Inca were defeated. But it was still one of the few victories the Inca had before their ultimate end. Much like Pumapunku, Ollantaytambo is an amazing example of seemingly impossible architectural advancement. Built in the 1400s, Ollantaytambo was way ahead of its time. Its temples were constructed with megalithic stone. Cobbled streets led through the tiered levels of the city. The Inca even carved a larger-than-life face into the cliff above the city. It was like an even more exciting version of Mount Rushmore, but in Peru. Number 2. The Tunnel of Eupalinos. The Tunnel of Eupalinos is one of the largest subterranean passages carved in the ancient world. It runs an astounding 3,399 feet through the solid rock of Mount Castro. The fact this was done by Greek workers in the 6th century BC is beyond impressive. People with nothing but sharp rocks burrowed through the earth like an army of mole rats. It is one of only 2 tunnels from ancient history that was excavated from both ends. Engineers knew where to start on either side of the mountain so that when the workers met in the middle, the tunnel would be complete. Not only is it inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, but the Tunnel of Eupalinos is also a designated International Historic Civil Engineering Landmark. At this point, you might be wondering, why build such a giant tunnel through a mountain? It was used as an aqueduct. The tunnel was such an impressive sight to the ancient Greeks, Herodotus described it in his notes on history. Homer also mentioned it in his hymn to Apollo. The genius behind the construction was Eupalinos, one of the greatest Greek engineers that ever lived. Once the tunnel was complete, pipes were installed to move fresh water to the city of Samos. The city had outgrown itself. There were too many people and there wasn't enough water in the wells. The fresh water from the other side of the mountain was brought straight into the city, allowing Samos to continue to prosper. Number 1. The first pottery. For a very long time, researchers believed pottery was invented at the same time as agriculture and animal husbandry. Pottery was one part of a larger package that came with the sudden invention of technology roughly 9,000 years ago. But that might not be the case at all. According to a new study published in Nature Human Behavior, ancient hunter-gatherers figured out how to make pottery 20,000 years ago. Rowan McLaughlin from the National University of Ireland collected shards of pottery from over 156 sites. Rowan and colleagues dated the pottery fragments and were able to create a map of when tribes in certain areas started to play around with clay. They were shocked to see it all started somewhere in the East at least 20,000 years ago. The knowledge of how to create pottery then spread from one tribe to another across Eurasia and Europe. The team's findings show the first time in human history technology spread using word of mouth. It may have been a simple technology, but it helped Stone Age humans hold valuables and transport liquids. Pottery was a thing for
That's wild. Well, once again, guys, we have learned something new for the day. You can't say that you didn't know all these things. So, once again, if you learned something, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'll catch y'all. It's your boy Aladdin.